My name's Gary Hernandez. I'm a director on the EMENA Region Board, and I'm happy today to host a really interesting IBC Connect webinar. You know, recently I attended the World Conference at Toronto, and the halls were just abuzz with chatter about AI. Right? Some of it was positive, some of it was negative, but everybody was talking about AI. So we're thrilled today to have Jasna Suhadolc.
Suhadolc. It's so hard.
So
just forget it. Yeah, Jasna is fine.
Okay, you see, that was the last stress hurdle that I needed to come to the pronunciation. But the topic, as you can see, is navigating the AI revolution, trends, benefits, implications. So Jasna is founder of Actuado, and she's a seasoned digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience. She started as a digital PR consultant. She continued her career as a content marketer, and today she works mostly on the digitalization of marketing, sales, and services. Her agency is a HubSpot Platinum Solutions partner, and she has a passion for new technologies and shares her knowledge as a guest professor, keynote speaker, and a workshop facilitator, as we'll see today. She is based in Slovenia, and she works internationally. She's been an IABC member for over 20 years and serves as the IABC Slovenia president. She's a longtime member of the management board of the IABC EMENA, and most recently she was on the program advisory committee for the IABC World Conference in Toronto, and I can tell you that that was a incredible success. So her work went well noticed. So with that, I will hand over to Jasna. I'll also ask everyone to please place themselves on mute during the presentation.
Great, thank you, Gary. I just have to say one thing, is that I had been IBC Slovenia president for several years in the past, but I'm not right now. So okay. I won't take credit for that. I'm really happy to see a lot of familiar faces, some new faces. And yes, I've been a member of IABC since 2001, I think. Well, 2000, because 2001 was my first IABC conference in New York City. And I was hooked after that. And one of the people I met there was Shel Holtz, which I think, who I think you probably all know. And I mentioned him on the podcast because he was one of the people who influenced also my career, because I always love technology. I'm really happy today that I'm going to be speaking about that. I do have some slides, as you can see, but please just put in the chat, or I don't know, Gary, if you want to moderate, however you want to do it, just ask questions when you want to, because it's so hard to prepare something like that. It's not my first time, but I was just in a panel like 2 hours ago, and someone else had a presentation about AI before me, and I thought, you know, I heard some people saying, oh, but we all know that already. And I know that some people don't, so it's really hard to choose what to say, and you know, how basic and how advanced, and probably you have different experiences. Some of you tried it intentionally, because unintentionally we're all using it, and some of you didn't. So please ask questions. If you want to comment on something, please do. So before we start, or I mean, I already started. The presentation was not done by ChatGPT, but I did use it for some of the parts in the presentation, because I use it practically daily since November or December, probably, when we started using it. And I asked it, you know, what is AI? So like really meta. And as you can see, and as you probably know, you know, there is a definition, and the definition may vary a little bit. But the thing is that we all been using AI for a while. So if you have Netflix, if you use Google, and I probably covered everyone by now, I don't have to even continue. We're all using it. And as an agency, so I don't do really advertising myself, but you know, the bidding part of it is also AI and so on. So here is a chart where you can see how quickly ChatGPT reached 100 million users. So it was just 2 months, and if we compare it to other similar or other platforms, you know, TikTok and Instagram, I mean, they were all fast as well. Even 9 months for TikTok and 30 for Instagram is not bad. But ChatGPT, end of November, when it came out to public use, we all went crazy and we all started using it. And a lot of people are still using it. And I think we're all learning how to use it. And obviously, it's not just ChatGPT. It's also other tools that we can use. And I want to ask you if you can put in a chat, what else besides ChatGPT are you using? Because I want to show you a few things that you know, we tried or that we played, or with some I didn't play it with myself, but my colleagues did. Like I'm still in the beta, I'm still the waiting list for Adobe Firefly. But you know, things like DALI, which is also by OpenAI, like ChatGPT. Jasper, I really like. I heard about Jasper through HubSpot, which is also one of the sources of information, how I get information on new things, because they, as partners, they keep us they keep us updated all the time. And Jasper is a somewhat similar tool like ChatGPT, but it covers not just text, it covers also graphics. And also HubSpot has their own, but I'll get to that. So yeah, so it's Bard, Firefly. Oh yes, the Copilot is something that I don't have. I don't know if you already have it, or did you just see it, but I know that Microsoft in Slovenia is testing it for this market. I just heard that today. So one of the benefits of ChatGPT, and everyone who's not a native English speaker might appreciate it, is that we can use our native languages. So if you're Slovenian like me, there's not many platforms that I can use in my native language. So it's one of the, you know, larger languages, but ChatGPT I can use in Slovenian, and I've been using it for so many things. And I'm mentioning ChatGPT because it's free, it's easily accessible, and after you test and learn how the prompting works and you get better and better, I think it can work really well. So one of the first things that I did back in December was I asked ChatGPT to synthesize a TED Talk. So as you know, TED Talks have the transcript. So I thought, okay, that's going to be easy. So I used the, 17, 18 minutes of the transcript, and I just copy pasted in ChatGPT and said, you know, give me the main bullet points. What's the main messages? And I thought, oh, this is like a virtual assistant. I like this Chatty, as I call him. It's a him for me. I don't know what it is for you, but it's a him for me. And of course, then I'm not sure when, but a bit later, HubSpot also introduced their own, and I will show you that just a little bit later. But with ChatGPT getting out there, I think we all started discussing AI. AI is not new, as I mentioned before, but I think just because of ChatGPT, it got so popular that we are now all discussing, and you can love it, you can hate it, but it's here. And I think we need to understand how it works, not maybe like under the hood how it works, but how it works in terms of what are the benefits, but also be mindful of the not so good things that definitely come with that. But anyone that you listen to, and they're much more, they're experts in AI, much more than I will ever be. They're all saying the same thing. You know, the cat is out of the bag. We have to understand how it works. We have to be mindful of the downsides of it, And the one thing that does worry me, it's probably not just one, but the one thing that does worry me is what can happen with all the fake, the sounds and so on, that I'll come back to that. But here is the Pope, as you can see, in a Balenciaga coat. And have you seen this picture before? Probably you did, because it went viral. But it looks really real. If I didn't hear about it, because I probably already knew when I saw it that it's an AI generated, but I would not know. And yesterday at an event, there was a Twitter EMEA director who showed us how this exact picture, or one of the pictures from this series, and she showed us how they had to obviously add a note that on Twitter, where it was published, that this is AI generated, because you don't really know. I mean, you cannot tell. And I don't know if any of you heard Kanye AI generated album, but I'm not a huge Kanye fan, but I know the type of music. I would not know. So maybe it's just me, maybe someone who really knows their music would, but it's amazing what can be done, and it's scary at the same time, I think, at least for me. This is a picture, a photo that was actually awarded at the Sony World Photography. And after it was already awarded, the guy who took it, I know it's a German photographer, I forgot the name, said that it's generated by AI, and that he wanted to provoke discussion around that. Because as you probably know, AI can, write poems, it can create music, it can create paintings, or at least pictures of paintings, and so on. So it's quite amazing how it's what can be done, but it's also scary. And one of the things with the regulation, I think it's very important that on the ethical and moral level, but also it needs to be regulated, that we need to disclose that, who created the content. And this is one that I experimented with, but I have to tell you that my son helped. I have a 17-year-old son that had the DALI account before I did. So I had an OpenAI account on ChatGPT, but I didn't figure at that time that I need to have a special DALI account as well. And after I figured that, it was already a paid subscription, and he still laughs at me because he has 15 prompts per month for free because he was so early. So one of the things I think it's also important for us as marketers, communicators, and so on, is that we try things as soon as possible and try to play with things so that we can see, what can be done, and also to benefit from things like when it's still free. And this is my experiment with DALI. So DALI is, for anyone who maybe doesn't know, is also a tool made by OpenAI, the same company organization that created ChatGPT. And when I first started using it on my son's account, my prompts were bad. I mean, not that this one is perfect, but at least it's much better. And I asked him, why are your pictures so better than, or your graphics so much better than mine? And he checked my prompts and said, you don't really understand how this works. It needs to be much more specific, and you need to, like here, the prompt was female robot thinking, painted in the style of Vermeer, because I could add the ring and so on, but this is just like a first thing. I didn't change it later, and I thought it did a pretty good job. And some of the things, especially with Midjourney, that I've seen that people are doing, are mind-blowing, and even videos with some of the tools and so on. And this one is from HubSpot. So this one, I think it's quite interesting because it's free. And it's actually made the same way. So it's like a web wrapper of the ChatGPT. But one of the things that we need to realize is that if we put anything in ChatGPT, it's basically out there. So, I mean, it's with OpenAI, but it's out there. So HubSpot wanted to create a platform. Of course, then you have to trust HubSpot, but at least for them, they trust themselves. So they created this platform, and I really like it because you can do a lot of things. And I think it's probably more user-friendly because it can give you some of the prompts. And if you want, at the end, if we have time, we can play with it a little bit. Oh, sorry about that. Play with it a little bit, but as you can see here, I created a little prompt. And one of the things that I've been doing here is, for example, I've been doing some blog research. I don't really use it as a content tool in terms of that I would use it and then copy paste it and just publish it. Of course not. But for ideation, I've got some really good ideas, both with ChatSpot and ChatGPT. So this chat is still in alpha. So it does have bugs and sometimes does not understand me. It doesn't speak Slovene though, but I can manage in English. But one of the things that I've been using it is, for example, to write the social media posts and so on. And since yesterday, it's also the content, the content tool, the content assistant, which is also by HubSpot, is also in all of the HubSpot versions, even the free versions. That's what I'm saying. You can just, so this is a screenshot from a blog where you go in HubSpot and you want to create a blog post. And as you can see, I can either generate paragraph, generate outline, generate ideas, generate conclusions. So when I click on generate ideas, I get this prompt. So an example prompt: give me ideas for a blog post on top marketing trends in the tech industry for driving traffic to your website. So this is a good prompt because it's quite exact, it's specific. And even if you're not using, so this is just one example of the content assistant that you have in HubSpot, but even if you're not using this tool per se, I think it's worth to try it out, because that's how, at least that's how I learned the prompts. That's how I see what can be done, and I can be better at other tools that I am using and will be using in the future. One of the panelists today mentioned that a lot of the jobs now, especially in the US, are also based on prompt. So the prompt engineer, who is supposed to be well paid. I don't know if we have that in Slovenia. I don't think so, not yet. But I think we all need to be a little bit, maybe not as prompt engineers, but I think we need to know at least enough that we can get by, and that we can be sort of self-sustainable to create this kind of posts. But of course, the results are not always fascinating when you're using AI. And this was actually in ChatGPT. The prompt was, I don't have it here, but it was something like, here's the link to a website. And the CEO, or what I say, managing director of Actuado, is speaking on this topic. Here's the link, and write a LinkedIn post and be excited. And the first thing that I got was exciting announcement. And since you're all communicators here, you probably can side with me that you wouldn't write exciting announcement on LinkedIn as a beginning of the post. But I think helping, so I see, at least in this phase, I see, for example, ChatGPT as a good enough helper. And then I take this and, I may just copy some parts of it, do some, create some changes, and then post it. But also what you can do is you can use this, parts of it, and then feed it back and say, okay, no, not like this. I like this part. I like this part. Now do it again, but more like, this and this. And maybe you can show them another post that you like, and in the style that you like from that post. Like if you have a someone that you look up to, how they write their posts, you can give them give the ChatGPT the prompts to say, okay, check this first, but then write it in this style, but write this content for LinkedIn. But it did get right, for example, that you need to have hashtags at the end of the post, and maybe some of them would be quite okay to use. I wouldn't use necessarily some of them, but I think a few of them would be fine. So the kind of tasks that are time consuming, I think AI that we know right now will be helping us, can help us already, and will be helping us even more. But there are new tools coming every day, based on ChatGPT. There's so many new tools that you can barely keep up. I'm in several groups where we share some ideas, and then, some people play and some people in my team play, and then we share what works and what doesn't. For me, I'm mostly using ChatGPT because I mostly write, my output is mostly writing. So this one works really well. Okay, I'm just checking the chat. Yeah, I think some of this. So to be honest, the first time I used the HubSpot's chat spot, I was really disappointed. I didn't like it at all, and that was probably, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. And I know I was speaking somewhere, and someone asked me, what about that one? Because I barely mentioned it. And I said, what? To be honest, I know that we're partners, but with HubSpot, I mean, but. No, not yet. It's not really helpful, but now it is, and it gets the updates all the time, and it's getting better and better, and it goes so quickly because the innovation here is amazing. I want to show you something that might be also helpful to sort of understand the big picture. And this is actually the state of marketing report that HubSpot does every year. And it's with different partners. And one of the things that was mentioned this year, and it was 1,200 marketers in US, UK, Canada, Germany, Australia, Singapore. I think that's it. So not in Slovenia. So I think it was very interesting that the workload increased, at least for 42% marketers. I don't know what your situation is, but I can definitely tell you that even though I didn't work, I worked a lot in 2022, but 2023 it's much more intense. And they said that even in 2022. It was a lot, but they expect, because this research was done at the end of last year, they expect that it's going to be even more work in 2023. So this is typically me, but also that they're using automation and AI to save them significant time. And it's the similar thing also in another research that was published a little bit later by Jasper and HubSpot that says that I think 2.5 hours per day can be saved by, for these kind of tasks where it can be, it's not that difficult to automate and to use AI to help you, like writing blog posts and derivatives of when you already have content and you need different kinds of similar content, like social media posts, newsletter, audio blog post, and so on. And I don't know what's your take, and I'm interested in what it is in terms of do you like HubSpot and not HubSpot, sorry, AI. I like HubSpot and AI. I don't know if you like it, if you're scared of it, if you're worried about your job and so on. But so far, I think that for me, it's using it to my benefit. And of course, the things that I do, it won't negatively impact. With AI that I do, it won't negatively impact any work that I do or anyone in my vicinity with what I'm doing. I think my presentation is, it's not AI, it's my presentation. So maybe if you can, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself or put it in the chat, but if you want to mention how you feel about AI, it would be good. Anyone who doesn't like it, maybe let's try like this. Okay, so apparently.
I will say that the one hindrance that I see with AI is, a lot of companies, because of cybersecurity issues, you can't, I know at my workplace, we can't access AI from the workplace, right? Which means we have to do it from our personal PCs, and then you try to import it internally, and that becomes a cyber issue, a cybersecurity problem. So, and I know there's been talk about kind of internal AI systems within company firewalls, but yeah, I just think about the accessibility, and I feel like I'm missing out because I can't, use it readily in the workplace.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't know how we've been through so many of these things. Remember, multimedia was going to change the world. You know, I think it's what you said, Jasna. You have to look at things with the right perspective and understand it in terms of the bigger picture. I think what Gary said is absolutely right. There's the critical point, and you raised it yourself. The critical point is that what you put in there suddenly is effectively public domain. And people are already putting in company secrets, and they're putting in messages that are that's for confidential announcements that they shouldn't be doing. So there's things already being fed in there, and we don't know where that's being sucked out of because there's no control on what's happening on the inside. So there has to be awareness of that. I think it will make an interesting change in the way that people are able to speed up their processes of drafting, for example. I think one thing that becomes very interesting, and what you said about being able to ask your question in a different language is key. It's like, is this going to change the nature of how you work in language and translations? Because in fact, maybe it's just going to create an awful lot of work for native English speaking copywriters, right? Because they're going to have to just spend their time correcting AI produced texts, and then a lot of work for native translators / AI translated document copywriters. So there's sort of an eventual dumbing down of things, and the value added part of what a lot of communicators does is pulled out because of that. But then on the other hand, you look and you go, okay, well, an AI system's like any rubbish in, rubbish out system. You know, it can only deliver what it's got. So what we then will really depend upon is currency, not currency, the money, but being current in what we know, in who we know, and how we understand what's going on. And I think it will be something of a change in the nature of the work of communicators. And one thing I'm wondering about is maybe that will force more communicators back into organizations, because the agencies, but won't have the time to be able to have the iterations they need to have in that process.
Yeah, I think that even the first part where you mentioned the translation, I think it's already happening. So what's changing, so I can tell you, because we do a lot of that, is that we help ourselves with, for example, ChatGPT, and then it's still less work to edit, not ideally translated blog post or an article, than it is to do it from scratch. And some people don't want to do it. Like in my team, I have someone who prefers to just translate it like they used to before, and it's fine. But you know, if you want to, if this helps you, I think it's fine if the content is public domain, because it's going to be eventually, definitely. Yes, so I think that there's some things to be said. I have an example of a company that had a leak, and I'll just come through that. To just continue with the research that I mentioned, was also part of that research was also how you can use AI for email marketing, and how the marketers are already using it all over the world. And it was, for example, you know, the typical things would be to brainstorm subject line and email copy out of the text that you written, and you know, it's good, you like it, you think it's well put together, but then it still takes time. Anyone who did that, and we did that for a while for a lot of clients, it's so time consuming. So in this way, I think it can be very helpful. And things like, you know, generate the graphic mockups and personalize it with AI. This is something that, for example, we already have in HubSpot. Some of the things are already in. Yes, Catalina, you wanted to mention?
I just wanted to ask you something about social media. You mentioned using ChatGPT to generate social media content, and I guess in my struggle through the ethics of posting through AI versus something that a human generates, and I know that's a huge discussion. I wanted to ask if you use it only for generating the initial post or also for responding.
Okay, so I don't really, I only use it for initial posts, but even that initial post, it's not like the example that I gave you, like the bad example that I gave you, how it didn't work. I use it more to, for example, I give them a post, a blog post, and it shortens it a little bit and makes it relevant for specific, it's different for Instagram, different for LinkedIn, and so on. So this is the only, maybe I haven't played enough with it, but that's the only way that I know how to use it, that it makes sense, because otherwise it's too much work for me, because it's, it doesn't get the tone. But after a few prompts, then, and showing also the pose that I like that we did before, then it gets a little bit better. But I never used it for responding, although I could, like, especially if it's a crisis situation, maybe it would give me some ideas. But to be honest, I don't do that a lot in my company, so I don't really have experience with that. Maybe for some ideas. Mainly, I use any AI tool that I use intentionally. It's for ideation and brevity. So I think that's the two cases what I do mostly. Okay, one of the things I wanted to show you is also from Forbes advisor, some of the research that I found interesting is, what do consumers do with AI and how do they plan to use it? And as you can see, respond to people via text or email, answer financial questions, plan a travel itinerary, and so on. Responding to emails, I already did that. And you know what I did? I used it. I got an idea from a colleague who said that she's working, so she's not Slovenian, and she's working with Slovenians, and she mentioned that she sort of uses ChatGPT to write the email that she already written in a way that would appeal to not only to Slovenians, she works internationally, to specific country or specific, Norwegian, Sweden, and so on, which I found really clever, because obviously, as we all know, it's really important how to communicate, and it's different all over the world. So it makes sense. Like Slovenians are really, exact. So I have to always add, how are you, and so on. We don't necessarily do that. We're more like, bam, bam, emailing back and forth. A few trends that I don't know if any of you uses Snapchat, and here is on the left is an example of my AI, and this is like an add-on. They use ChatGPT and put it in Snapchat. And since I don't use Snapchat, again, I asked my son to help me out on this. And this is actually just, someone you can talk to. And for him, it's not relevant because he doesn't use it. And he thinks, that it wouldn't be relevant for him or his friends. But I see a potential with, having a sort of friend, an AI friend, which has its own implications. In the middle, it's Bing that already, like from an app that already uses also the AI in their questions. And also I just heard it the other day that Google is gonna, like in the summer, in the next few months, it's gonna completely change. So we've been using Google for so long, the interface we all know, and it's supposed to change. They're playing with the generative AI. And I really like, so this is something I can send you the slide deck, and you will have the links also to the sources, so that you can see how it works if you haven't seen it before. But sooner or later, we're all going to be using it. But I think it's quite interesting. So here it was an example of what kind of bike to buy to, I think, drive like 5 kilometers to work, but there are, a few hills or something like that was the example. And of course, we cannot not mention the downsides of AI generally. I don't mean just ChatGPT. And you probably remember The Social Dilemma, the movie. I recently heard the creators of that movie talk about AI because they're now working on this. And they explained a very, to me, quite scary story. And that they wanted to mention this as an example what can happen, but when they prepared the speech, they realized that it's already happening. And the story was something like, my son calls me and says, "Hey, Mom, can you give me social security number because I need it, to, I don't know, what was the example, sign up for a job or something like that." Because, in just a few seconds, robocall can record his voice when he's answering and no one is picking up, and then generate his sound calling me. Sometimes you don't really hear well and so on. I could definitely think that it's my son, and just give the information. So one of the things that we'll need to realize that we don't know who's creating content. And I mean that from a point of a consumer and from a point of communication specialist. We don't know. And things are happening that you can write a book with AI, and apparently they sell. So Kanye album and so on. There's so many different examples how you can use or how people use AI to create content. And that's why I think it's so important that we disclose this, so that we disclose not only when it's going to be mandatory, but from a moral perspective, that we disclose that it was generated by AI. And I don't mean when you shorten your blog post or something like that, but when you create something that looks like it's man-made, I think it should be stated that it is not. And when we talk about regulation, this is Sam Altman from OpenAI, and he recently testified in front of Senate. I think it was maybe a few weeks ago. And one of the things that he said is even he thinks, that if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong. And there are so many people, I forgot the name of the gentleman who quit Google. Oh no, I lost the name. So it was someone who was in the early days of AI, has been working at Google for decades, and quit because he thinks that, and he's now trying to let us know that it sort of has its own life, and that there are so many dangers AI has that we need to understand. And I think it's important, obviously, as parents, as consumers, but obviously it's going to also be very important for our work, because it will impact both how we do work and also how we help our companies, or if you work in an agency, your clients, navigate that. Because I mentioned in the beginning, sometimes I don't know how basic I should go with this kind of talks, but a lot of people didn't even try anything of the things that I mentioned here. And at least ChatGPT, has been publicly available for what, 7 months, something like that. And a lot of people didn't. Maybe agencies are more proactive because we need to be. And I'm sure that all of you here are as well. But generally, I don't know about your clients or your colleagues, but people are not necessarily. And the second thing is the AI Act that I wanted to mention. So it's something that European legislation is it's being prepared, where we will try, well, EU will try that this is the first comprehensive EU law that will have different, based on the severity of AI. I'm not sure if severity is the right word. So the risk that poses, it's going to have different rules. And I think it's really important. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think it's a really important thing that we should all be following and then being aware of. Anyone who's in Europe, in EU, about GDPR and how that impacted how we do marketing. I think this is going to be, and it's an important thing that this is also passed, and that we also benefit as citizens from that. And we mentioned before the risk levels, and this is for the generative AI. This is what I found on the AI Act. What would be the benefits, or how AI Act would benefit us as consumers, like things disclosing that the content was generated by AI. The thing that I mentioned, I think morally we need to do that. Designing the model to prevent it from generating illegal content, which can be a problem, and publishing summaries of copyrighted data used for training. Now, I'm not, a lawyer, but there's a lot of talk also, who owns the IP when you generate something based on work of someone else, like, I know, Kanye and his album. And of course, we come to ethics, and, the definition of ethics is that it's a set of moral principles, and it helps us discern what is right and what is wrong. But the problem that's with the AI is that even AI experts don't know, well, some of them are not ethical, that's problem number one, but AI sort of can get their own life, and sometimes things happen, like the guys from the Social Dilemma movie, I think Tristan Harris mentioned that they don't know why, I think it was Bart that started understanding, I forgot which language, but something that didn't feed them the content. It just started understanding it, and they don't know why. So a lot of the AI experts that are worried, and if you follow research, you know, there's been also there was research that they, I think, also mentioned in this speech, that a lot of the, I don't remember the exact numbers, but a lot of the AI researchers are worried that it's going to take over our lives. And we mentioned before the privacy, and this is an example with Samsung. You probably heard about that. That was quite recent. And also before that, you know, Italy didn't allow ChatGPT for a while now. I think it's back, and Samsung banned it because people were using it to, you know, they put in the meeting notes, and it's great to have the meeting notes, but then you don't do it really on ChatGPT, because then it becomes OpenAI's, you know, content, and there were some trade secrets also being passed on here, and that's why they banned it. So things that I think are very important that we also have a position to teach, because I see completely how, you know, someone, sorry, my computer. I completely see how someone would just do it unintentionally. And to be honest, I was today on a panel at an event, and someone said, you know, we're using this for meeting notes, but do you know where this content goes? And yes, it goes to OpenAI. I mean, it's in Slovenian, and probably where, you know, the company is probably not that relevant and that significant as Samsung, but it's still something that even educated people can make a mistake because they just don't, you know, they don't think about it. And this is something I need to be, I think we need to be very vocal and help our companies or our clients to understand it better. And what will happen to our jobs? This is one of the breaking news recently, that BT will cut 55,000 jobs and by 2030. So it's still, what, 7 years? But I think it's also important that 10,000 of them are supposed to be because of AI. And a lot of the companies are talking about, you know, yes, jobs will be lost, definitely, but we need to make sure that we upskill people, that they can do something else. And I'm not too negative about it, but I think that we need to help upskilling the people who are doing now the, I don't know, the administrative mundane tasks that can be done with AI and will be done by AI. Because, for example, from an agency standpoint, if I'm today charging, I don't know, 8 hours time for something that I need to do, and then tomorrow, with help of different tools, I can do it in 2 hours. Of course, you know, they're not going to pay for 8 hours anymore, because even if we're not going to do it, someone else will be able to offer the same level of, you know, the same work or a similar work in terms of quality for less. And then, you know, we have a problem also with our jobs and with our with managing our clients. And just a few things before I finish, and I'll check then the chat. I see that it's been quite intense. One of the things I wanted to mention is that I don't do just marketing anymore. I try to, well, we do digitalization of different company, not company, oh, I forgot the word in English, sorry. So like marketing and departments, marketing, service and sales. And here are a few examples that I wanted to, I wrote down that I think that AI would help there. By no means, it's not everything. It's just a few things that I've already been seeing, like for customer service. If you have AI, then you can reduce waiting times because a lot of the things that they can do themselves, and also when they get when the support team gets a task, a ticket, they can solve it much quicker because of the help of the AI. So it's also better assigning customer requests, and also that customer support can train on real life scenarios, which is also something that many sales people are using now. So doing sort of role call with ChatGPT, for example, or with another similar tool, and say, I want to sell you this, and these are the objections, go, and then you have a sort of conversation with someone, and you can practice what they do in workshops and so on. For marketing, definitely faster content creation. I do want to emphasize that I don't mean that we just put it in and extract it and publish it. It does need editing, but it needs less time than if you just do it from scratch. Higher conversions because of AI, because it can some of the things it can help us will be much better that we can do it ourselves. Educating customers with chatbots, which is something that we've been doing for a while, even without the AI, but with AI it's much easier because the content is even more relevant for them. Spending less time on analyzing and reporting, because AI helps us build those dashboards and reports and so on, and suggest the things that maybe we didn't even think of, where we can then improve. So I think it goes hand in hand with our work as humans, and being the editor, the prompter, however, whatever role, a similar role that we need to have, but with the help of AI as sort of an assistant or a specialist, maybe in some cases. So a few things that I think are beneficial, so I don't want to end it negatively. So definitely we can better understand the customer, we can be much more efficient, and I've seen that with me, with my team, with my colleagues. Cost reduction, which is good for everyone. I mean, on the agency side, on the client side, and so on. One of the things that I like is the better data-driven decision-making, and also better data-driven product planning, because I really like data. I have all my life, and I really want to use it. And that's actually one of the reasons why we are a HubSpot partner, because we've been generating so much content, and we didn't really know much apart from opens of emails and clicks, and maybe how many people visited the page with the blog post or something, or that the client said, oh, we like it, or something like that. So I think data that can help you really drive the decisions, and not with you necessarily doing too much. It's just something that you set up, and then you can choose whether you want to accept it, obviously, or you want to have the manual finish, but it can do most of the work by itself. And now for the last time, the last slide, what are the next steps? So I think we all need to monitor what's going on, and try to play with as many tools as we can. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be always, I don't play with a lot of tools, but my coworkers do, and then we sort of spread the burden of that. But when we find something, we always share. So we have like weekly, not just for AI, but generally we have weekly sharings where, especially now we're half remote, half in person, and so on. We share this regularly, and we need to monitor what's happening with the regulation, so that we know before it actually happens, to be able to also to explain to our stakeholders, either in company or as an agency to a client. I think testing a lot of the things, which is something I said also, last year when we were all on social audio in Clubhouse and so on. I'm not on Clubhouse anymore, but I think it was very beneficial that I tested it, and I got some new friends, and I had good time. So even when it's not something that's going to be permanent, I think it's good to test. I think it's sort of well, maybe not obligation, but I think it's something that it's good that we know, we test, and we help the clients or in the internal clients navigate this, and then obviously use and then see what works, what doesn't work, and then share it with other people, and add a few more platforms that benefit you. And I saw some in the chat actually, so I'll check later. There are probably a few that I haven't played with yet, so I'm happy to check that. So this is it from me, but I'm happy to have a conversation. How are we on time? Oh, we're good. To have a conversation, and if there's something in the chat that I missed, which is most of the chat, I'll check it and we can address it.
So if anyone has questions or comments, please unmute your mic and go and ask, or as Jasna mentioned, you can put it into the chat as well.
I'm laughing because I saw the chat, calling chat.
If it's okay with you, I would like to tackle education in the context of AI, because it's a topic which we recently approached in Romania, as I'm part of the AmCham Education Task Force. And we are pretty adamant in bringing towards the Romanian government the need to not only digitalize Romania, but also rethink the education system, because already many pupils and students are using ChatGPT to do their homework. And some of them don't have the know-how of fact-checking, so they take for granted whatever ChatGPT gives them because it's easy, it's fast, and homework is done like Mary Poppins magic. So I believe that it's very important to rethink the education system in such a way that we can teach critical thinking, creative thinking, logical processes, mental processes that can help young people develop, use technology, because we cannot escape technology. We have to use it to our benefit, adjust to it, and go forward. Also create an assessment system. How do you grade, how do you assess a homework done with ChatGPT versus somebody who properly did the old-fashioned type of homework? Because it will impact the labor market later on. Who do you use? The one who has the fastest solutions but has no intention of checking, or the ones who actually know how to check something and understand that technology is advanced, but at least now still in learning mode on certain issues?
I completely agree what you said, Elena. And my son used ChatGPT the first week he got access to it for the slide deck that he had to go to do at school, and he was really fascinated what it can do. I was as well, to be honest. And his teacher was fine with that. He told them that he did that. I think this is just my personal opinion, but I think that yes, things are changing, and it doesn't make sense that I would tell my son no, like maybe 10 years ago, don't Google. You need to, we have a lot of books, just go and pick a book and find it in it, But what you're saying is obviously also that we need to teach them how to do it in a way that they will be able to critically assess whether this makes sense. Just like we taught them that not anything that they found on internet is correct, and that they cannot credit Google when they have an assignment and so on, which even many grown-ups sometimes do. But yeah, I think it's totally going to change, and COVID did a part of it to change the teaching, the education, and I think that this is just an accelerator that will help even more. And to be honest, I'm excited for that, because I think that yes, it does matter that you can do it quickly, but not so that the quality still needs to be there. So I think that there's still a lot of work to be done by a student to be able to do that. And I also teach digital marketing, and I'm perfectly fine if they help themselves with any AI tool. So anything that can make it quicker, but still that when I get it, it's the quality is high. I don't mind. I think it's I actually applaud that. I think it's really, really good use of time. Any other questions? I'm trying to see in the chat, but I don't see if there are any. If I missed something, please let me know.
I guess one of the questions I've got, which I've asked several people at events over the last few weeks, particularly people that are tech vendors around this, where I can see some real benefits for AI making certain jobs easier, but then I can also see certain jobs being made redundant in the future. And I'm wondering what skills, what things that we as communications professionals should be doing and looking for to make sure that we're not AI'd out of our roles. The general feedback is always, oh, but it free you up to do the more strategic work that you've been meaning to do for ages. But if the strategic work isn't what's currently valued by your organisation, there still needs to be a pivot or a change in what your role or your remit needs to be. And I think, how can we help make that happen?
Yeah, for me, apart from the strategic work, obviously it can be also just, you know, the tactics like editing and so on. I think that yes, some of the work that we're doing, so I don't know what you all are doing specifically on your job, but some of the work that we're doing, it doesn't have to be too strategic. This part is going to be definitely replaced, like translations, you know, simple copy that just you know, is shortening something and so on, taking notes and so on. This is all work that also comms professionals do, but maybe not the most senior ones. But I think that the checking the content and finding additional data and so on, and also prompting. I think it's so, I don't know if you saw the meme that something like AI is going to take over, and the only thing that the client needs to know how to is specifically to say what they want designed. Oh, we're okay. It's going to be okay, because no one really knows how to do it, even to a designer as a person. So I don't have a really good answer for that, but I would say from what I've seen is that it's definitely going to change. Maybe I won't hire so many people in a junior role, because I see, you know, they will need to be, they will need to know something that AI or like ChatGPT and so on, that they don't. So it needs to be something else. I don't know what that is, because it's going to be different, but for me, it's going to be definitely the critical thinking and trying to find the relevant, create the relevant prompts that AI can then help distribute and create the content and so on. Does anyone else want to participate with this challenging question? Maybe what you see in your organization.
A lot of answers, but I can say something. Oh, I'm sorry, Monique. I didn't see you start to talk.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to contribute and say, Jasna, my concern is how do we get our juniors up to speed if they don't go through this process of back and forth learning and actually knowing what is good. How do we? Yeah, I guess we have to rethink the whole training up juniors.
Yeah, I think they would still do the process. The only from what I see, so in my team, the process is not that different. The only change is that they don't go back to their computer and write something 4 hours. They use the ChatGPT and write it in 1 hour, but they still have to, you know, the end result still has to be as good as if they wrote it. And then, of course, we check it. The seniors check it, and then we go back.
I have to say, I have resented 1 or 2 times people bringing me stuff that was obviously done on ChatGPT that I could have done myself on ChatGPT, and it was rubbish. So actually, that's just my personal thing. I actually resented the fact that they'd brought me something that hadn't taken them very long, and it took me a while to provide that feedback. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but that's different. That's them not doing the additional work that they should be doing. I'm not saying just copy pasting in ChatGPT. That's what you could do. I'm saying them doing the work after ChatGPT, threw out something and they do the editing. And yes, you can see also with the comments on LinkedIn, I think, I don't really know, but I think I can spot people who do that a lot.
I agree. And I can see Monique's point about what is it that we teach our juniors that are coming through the process, because they are bringing us those chatbot GPT rendered that content, and it's taking those with a little more experience, more time to sift through it, because the mental thought process is not being gone through by our juniors. And I've seen this even from a vendor level when I sit in vendor demos and they want to introduce the features that they've adopted their system with for AI. And we're all on an AI craze at the moment, so really excited to jump on board with this. But the output and what the customer sees, so far, my feedback to our vendors has been, it's great that you have this technology embedded, but number one, it's not formatted. Number two, what is the accuracy of the information that now I'm sending out to my customers based on the summarization of the FAQs on our website? And what responsibility are you going to take if this chatbot generated summary leads my customers astray and we have customer complaints at this point? And so I want to see what your unhappy flow is for when I have to reach out to you, because the chatbot generated summary was not accurate.
Yeah, I think there's also something where, if you talk about what ChatGPT can't do, I work in internal communications, and I was with BP for 20 years, and I'm with the Ramco for about 9 years now. It's taken me 9 years being in the Ramco to really, really, really understand our 70,000 stakeholders and how our employees think, and all the nuances of the company. And it took me 20 years to figure it out for BP. And I don't think ChatGPT is able to do that, is able to craft messaging around what our real stakeholders care about and think about and worry about and want to know about it, and set in a way that they'll respond to appropriately. So hopefully that's a frontier that won't be taken over soon. But I think that's an area that we still will deliver value in for a fairly long time.
Any other questions, comments? I'm laughing at Lisa's comment on the toddler. What I'm doing now, and I didn't have my students now, so next time it's going to be in the fall. I'm going to try letting them use the tool, ChatGPT or whatever the tool is going to be, or several tools, and try to teach them, still giving feedback, but try to teach them how to know that this is bad. So whatever they just, when they copy paste, that this is not good enough. It doesn't mean that since ChatGPT gave it out that it's okay, because as you probably all know, it can hallucinate, it can just make up stuff and say that someone died who is clearly still living, and so on and so on. So definitely not something that you want to just copy paste. But also the tools are going to get better and better, I think. So it's going to be really exciting in the next year or two to see what's happening.
Fake news is actually a major risk that we are concerned at least in my country, and I'm sure that's everywhere, because it's absolutely uncontrollable, the quantity and the damage of fake news that can be produced with artificial intelligence.
Yes, they say that the next US elections are going, since we saw what happened last time, I think it's safe to say that it's going to be heavily influenced with AI. It's just going to be mass producing because it's so easy.
Okay, well, it's about 10 after 6 now, so we've gone over a bit, but that's fine because we had a lot of really interesting questions and content. Jasna, any closing remarks for us?
I just want to thank you, everyone who came on this call, on this webinar. I really enjoyed it. I miss IABC so much. I couldn't go to Toronto this year, so I'm hoping to connect with at least some of you on any of the City Connects, and if not that, then next year in Chicago, and virtually, obviously.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll have a recording of this up on the IABC EMENA website in a week or so. Thank you, everyone.